Okay, we are on Genesis 21. The Lord dealt with Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had promised. Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the time of which God had spoken to him. Number 3. Abraham gave the name Isaac to his son whom Sarah bore him. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God has commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Now Sarah said, God has brought laughter for me. Everyone who here will laugh with me. And she said, who will ever have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have bore him a son in his old age. Verse 8. The child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day that Abraham was weaned. But Sarah was the son of Hagar. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, playing with her son Isaac. So she said to Abraham, cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not inherit along with my son Isaac. 11. The matter was very distressing to Abraham on account of his son. But God said to Abraham, do not be distressed because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah say to you, do as she tell you. For it is through Isaac that offspring shall be named for you. 13. As for the son of the slave woman, I will make a nation of him also, because he is your offspring. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread in a skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered about in the wilderness of Beersheba. 15. When the water in the skin was gone, she cast the child under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite him, a good way off, about the distance of a bowshot. For she said, do not let me look on the death of the child. And as she sat opposite of him, she lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the boy. And the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, what trouble you, Hagar? Do you be afraid? Do not be afraid, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Come, lift up the boy and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make a great nation of him. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. She went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. Verse 20. God was with the boy, and he grew up. He lived in the wilderness. Let me continue again with verse 20. God was with the boy, and he grew up. He lived in the wilderness and became an expert with the bow. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, 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 and his mother got a wife for him from the land of Egypt. Verse 22. At the time Abimelech, Abimelech, at the time Abimelech with Phicol, 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 The commander of his army said to Abraham, God is with you in all that you do. Yes, he is. God is with you in all that you do. Now, therefore, swear to me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me, or with my offspring, or with my prosperity, but as I have dealt loyally with you. You will deal with me and with the land where you have resided as an alien. And Abraham said, I swear it. 25. But Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servant had seized. Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this. You did not tell me, and I have not heard of it until today. 27. So Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and the two men made a covenant. Abraham set apart 7 lamb of the flock. And Abimelech said to Abraham, what is the meaning of these 7 lamb that you have set apart? Verse 30. He said, the 7 lamb you shall accept from my hand, in order that you may be a witness for me that I dug this well. Therefore, that place was called Beersheba, because there both of them swore an oath. When they had made a covenant at Beersheba, Abimelech with Phicol, the commander of his army, left and returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham resided as an alien many days in the land of the Philistines. Okay, we just read 21. 21. Now let me go over what we just read. The 21 verse 1 to 7. Verse 1 to 7, it dealt with the birth of Isaac. At long last, the Lord begins to fulfill the promise of a great nation and many descendants. That's the promise God made on Genesis 12, verse 2, and also Genesis 15, verse 5. Through the birth of Isaac. In verse 4, circumcision is a ritual cutting of the foreskin of the male penis. It is a physical signet on a male belonging to God's covenant's people. In Genesis 17, verse 9 through 14. And verse 6, the words laughter or laughed and in Hebrew is tish, is tshq, that's the meaning of it, are pung on the child's name Isaac, which is Yitzqua, that's H-I-T, Y-I-T-S-H-A-Q. In verse 4, God bring laughter to Sarah by removing her shame that she could not have any child. And she was grateful, she was laughing, she was happy, just like a mother who just gave birth for the first time, or each time they give birth, they laughed at the miracle that God has given to them. Now, let's concentrate on verse 8 to 21. Verse 8 to 21. Abraham and Sarah sent Hagar and Ishmael away. This episode contained elements similar to the early story of Hagar and Ishmael in Genesis 16, verse 1 to 16. Conflicts between Sarah and Hagar, journeyed into the desert, encountered with a divine angel, a well of water, promises concerning Ishmael, and a play on the word here relates to the name Ishmael. A key difference this time is that Hagar is forcibly expelled by Sarah, whereas before Hagar had left voluntarily. In verse 10 to 13, Sarah's demand to send Hagar and Ishmael away is a very distressing for Abraham because it will mean giving up his son Ishmael. But God commanded Abraham to send Ishmael away, and Abraham obeyed. In 22 verse 2, and Genesis 22 verse 2, God will similarly command Abraham to give up his only remaining son, Isaac. In verse 16, Hagar's words do not let me look reflect the theme of seeing and not seeing in the story, according to Genesis 21, verse 9, 16, and 19. That God, verse 17, that God has heard. That's the Jewish word for SHM, heard or has heard. Is upon on the child named Ishmael, which means God's here. Now, let's continue on. Let's continue on to 22 to 34. Abraham reconciled with Abimelech. The Canaanite king Abimelech, who Abraham had earlier thought had no fear of God, in Genesis 20, verse 11, that's when Abraham went to the township of Abimelech and pretended that as for the second time that Sarah was his sister and not his wife. That's where he come from, verse 20, 11. Saw a remarkable when the Canaanite king Abimelech, who Abraham had earlier thought had no fear of God, in verse 2011, show a remarkable reverence toward Abraham's God and a willingness to reconcile a human conflict with Abraham. In verse 31, Beersheba came in either a well of oath or referring to the loyalty oath between Abraham and Abimelech in 22 to 24. Or Beersheba could mean well of seven, referring to the 7-year lamb Abraham gave to Abimelech in return for acknowledging that the well belonged to Abraham in verse 28 to 30. Now in verse 23, the planting of the tamarisk tree established the site as a holy place of worship, everlasting God, El Olam. May have been the name of an earlier deity worship at the site that the story now appropriates as an additional title for the Lord. So I hope you learned something. Sarah is the one who forced Abraham to sleep with her slave out of fear that she would not have a son, would not have an heir. And the slave agreed because she had no choice because she was a slave. But then when she bore him a son at pretty much real quick after they got married, Sarah became jealous. Sarah became jealous. The slave girl become Hagar become arrogant. Now when Sarah have her own child, jealousy kicked in again, and she wanted to kick Hagar out. So she went to Abraham and said, "I don't want your child living here with my kid. I don't want him to inherit my wealth. This is not good." That's why it's always good to have children with the wife of your youth. Stay within your union. That's the same thing. If you look at it, if you compare Sarah to Eve, Sarah bring Hagar to Abraham and have a child. Now, that child become an obstacle for them. Eve bring the forbidden fruit to Adam, which also become an obstacle for them, which caused them to suffer. Anyway, that's my take on it. I hope to see you soon. Cause if you didn't watch the previous 20 chapters, I suggest you do so. Watch the taping, learn about it. Leave me a message if you want to. No more. I'm also on Facebook and here on YouTube, so you could also leave a message with your questions and stuff, and share this message so the word of God could spread throughout the full region of the world. Because the Bible said, guess what? The word has to spread. Before he comes, the word will spread, and you have to evangelize it and spread it out for those who can who cannot read. If you cannot read, you could hear. So let them hear the word of God. Let them hear the verse, so they'll have a relationship with God and understand the word of God. Peace be with you.